Welcome back to Module 5, Rules and Regulations under the Financial Advisories Act. Let's look at now Chapter 4 at paragraph 3. This is the Notice on Information to Clients and Product Information Disclosure under FAA Notice number 3. As mentioned before, this FAA Notice number 3 on product information disclosure applies to licensed financial advisors, exempt financial advisors, representatives of financial advisors, persons who are exempted under Regulation 29 of the Financial Advisors Regulations, and representatives of persons who are exempted under the same Regulation 29 of the FAR. This can be found in the box numbered 2. Now, as at B, persons exempt under Notice F number 3, they also provide you with, the notice also provide you with the details in regard to the persons where the FAA Notice number 3 is not applicable. That is under paragraph 2A in the box. Right? So A, B, C, D under 2A, the FAA Notice number 3 does not apply to the person specified thereunder. Now, very quickly, now we look at paragraph C, which sets out the general disclosure principles. And as mentioned before, at paragraph 11, the standards expected are clear, adequate, and not false or misleading. Right? Those three are the general disclosure principles in which under FAA Notice number 3, financial advisors are expected to follow. Now, looking at paragraph D onwards, right? Paragraph D onwards, the FAA Notice number 3 sets out the details with regard to disclosure that must comply with the 3 principles of clear, adequate, not false or misleading. Now, under D, it talks about the general information about the financial advisor and the status of a representative. Right? The details are set out under paragraph 12. Right? And in particular, I wish to draw your attention to paragraph E in terms of the product providers, whose products the financial advisors procures on behalf of his clients, recommends or markets to his clients, or market to his clients on behalf of the product providers. Right? So, in terms of disclosure about the financial advisor, 12 provide the details. Paragraph 12 provides the details. Right? Now, quickly, if you look at paragraph 13 over the page, that will be with regard to the disclosure by the representative, the financial advisor representative. All right? And it must be disclosed in writing. The representative must disclose in writing, for example, his name, the financial advisor which he acts. And in this regard, I just want to remind you that one financial advisor representative is to act for one principal only. Right? That's under B, the financial advisor for which he acts. Then C, the type or types of financial advisory services which is authorized to provide under the Act. And D, the types of investment products. So there are 2 types there. One is the types of financial advisory services, and the second one is the types of investment products of which he is authorized to provide financial advisory services on. And all this must be in writing as well. Right? So that's under paragraph 13. Yes. So with regard to the financial advisor, information about the financial advisor and the status of the financial advisor representative. Right? This is for accountability reasons. And then if you look at paragraph E, FAA Notice number 3 also requires disclosure in respect of the remuneration or the financial advisor. All right, that's under paragraph 3.6. And the details are set out at paragraph 16, at 17, 18, 19, all the way to 22. Right? I mentioned a little bit about paragraph 19 in terms of trailer commission, soft commission, and the like. I would also like to draw your attention to paragraph 22. In case of a life policy, a financial advisor shall disclose to his client the distribution cost item in the policy illustration, where the policy illustration is available in respect of the life policy, and shall not be required to disclose the amount and type of remuneration as stated at paragraph 16 to 21. Now, this is only with regard to life policies, right? So remuneration of the financial advisor must be disclosed in accordance to the details set out from paragraph 16 to 22. Now, looking at F, there's a short paragraph there regarding conflict of interest. I believe we have done that in the earlier chapter, right, where you need to disclose any actual or potential conflict of interest arising from any connection to or association with any product provider. Right? For example, between a financial advisor and a life insurer, right? Including any material information or facts that may compromise its objectivity or independence in the provision of financial advisory services. So that's the disclosure regarding conflict of interest. Right? Now, paragraph G below sets out the product information disclosure regarding the designated investment products. That's at 3.8, paragraph 3.8. Right? Now, in the box below, the disclosure requirements are set out from paragraph 24 all the way to paragraph N, right? So the details are there. And I just read to you the heading, paragraph 24, nature and objective of the product. Right? Then B, details of the product provider. So these are disclosure regarding the investment products per se, on the investment products on their own, right? So what's the nature and objective of the product? What the details of the product provider, right? Then C talks about contractual rights. And especially look at the contractual rights under the third paragraph there. They also specify in case of a collective investment scheme where the units are held on behalf of the client under a nominee company's name. The financial advisor shall disclose and explain to the client the fact that his rights may only be enforced through the nominee company. Right? So this is the key product disclosure information. Right? In the case of a life policy, the financial advisor shall disclose and explain to the client that he is responsible for the accuracy and completeness of the information given to the life insurer issuing the policy. So the client is responsible, and this must specifically be told to the client. Accuracy and completeness of the information given to the life insurer issuing the policy. Right? The financial advisor in this case is an intermediary, right, between the life insurance company and the prospective insured. Right? Either in the application for the life policy or when making a claim under the life policy. Right? Otherwise, the insurer may be able to repudiate liability. Right? If the information is not complete and correct. Right? In fact, if there's any fraudulent misrepresentations or fraudulent statements, right, whether in the application for the policy or making a claim under the policy, this will entitle the insurer to avoid the policy. Right? And of course, if you look below the line there, the financial advisor should also disclose and clearly explain to the client. I emphasize the words clearly explain to the client that any misstatement or non-disclosure of material facts may affect the validity of the policy. That's in regard to the proposal form, right, that the client fills in applying for a life policy. As I said before, similar effect will apply if making a claim, either the financial advisor or the insured makes a false claim or make any fraudulent claim, then the life insurer can avoid the policy. Right? Then paragraph D will talk about the client's profile. Right? The financial advisor shall disclose and explain to the client the intended client profile of the product. Right? So example, the product's intended investment horizon. Is it for term, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? So what's the product's intended investment horizon? The ease of converting the investment in the product to cash is liquidity, in other words, right? So that is the profile of the product, right? And then the expected level of risk tolerance of the client. So that's under paragraph D. And if you cast your eye downwards, you have commitment required from the client. Okay, what kind of commitment are you talking about? Like, for example, they say in the case of a life policy, right, the financial advisor shall disclose and explain to the client whether the premium rate is guaranteed or non-guaranteed, and any other special commitment that's required from the client. In particular, financial commitment and the benefits. Right, that's on the F, to be very specific, benefits of the product. Again, they make mention in the second line under paragraph F in terms of life policy. Okay. Then G, risks of the product. Okay, this is quite self-explanatory. Okay, what are the risks in investing in such a product? And the FA notice number 3 is also quite specific in regard to life policies under G1 and G2. And below that, they set out the requirements under the collective investment scheme. Okay. Paragraph H talks about the pricing of the product. Again, they relate to investment schemes, the CIS and the ILPs. Right? And then I, there are fees and charges to be borne by the client. Now, this must be made very clear to avoid any dispute. Right? Whether the product is subject to a deferred sales load, right? And what are the details of the deferred sales load? All this must be explained to the client. Right? Because at the end of the day, the client has to bear all these fees and charges, and they must be made known up front. No surprises, as it were. Right? The details are set out below there. And then J, talk about reports to the client. So regular report must be given to the client and any update, right? The frequency of the reports. And then K, set up the free look periods for life policies. Okay. And in particular, I draw your attention to paragraph K3. In the case of an ILP, the risk of any fall in the value of the underlying investment during the free look period may have been borne by the client. Right? So you're advising on ILPs, this must be told to the client. Right? That there any fall in the value of the underlying instrument, then the client may have to bear the loss. Right? Similarly, L, cancellation period for trust units, investment trust, the collective investment trust. So all the unit trusts you have to disclose and explain to the client. M talks about withdrawal, surrender, or claim. And the last one, N, talks about warnings, exclusions, and disclaimers. All right, we have gone through all that. Now look at H. H talks about the illustration of past and future performance of the accident investment products. Right? So most this is again under notice FA number 3. Right? So financial advisors tend to give out information regarding the past and performance of certain products, whether it's CIS or other types of products. So when you're talking about past performances, you must make sure to make a note to say that past performances are in no way an assurance of the future performance. Right? So if the financial advisor wants to use past performance, they must have a caveat, right? That whatever past performance, the successful, the good past performances of a CIS, right, may not necessarily be indicative of the future or the likely performance of the current product. Right? It is just an indication, but it is not indicative. Right? That's under paragraph D in terms of life policy, 25D and 25E, when advising on collective investment scheme. Right? You shall not make any projection, prediction, estimate, right? Except to the extent permitted by the law, by clause 1 of Annex E. Right? So this is to prevent any forced selling, all right, where you talk a lot about past performances and trying to influence the client to say that, look, that may be very indicative of the future performance. So this is to prevent that from happening, right? So words like projection, target, forecast, prediction must be used very carefully, right? And it must be qualified in the sense that, they do not necessarily point to the fact, right, that such past performances will result in the same or better performances for the current investment products, right? So, now I talks about marketing materials, and in the same way, marketing materials must be approved by the financial advisor. It must be objective, it must be clear, it must be adequate, it must not be false and misleading, right? So, financial advisor representative or life agents, they have to use marketing materials approved by the financial advisor. Now, you look up the page there. There's of course a penalty of $25,000. All right, if you fail to comply with paragraph 3 in terms of the product information disclosure to clients. Okay. Now, looking at paragraph 4, that is the notice on dual currency investments, and this is under FAA 11, notice number 11. Now, look at paragraph 4.1 under the box there, item 2. The notice applies to any license of exempt financial advisor or its representative who advises on any dual currency investments, except, all right, underline the word except, right, where advice is given to an accredited investor, number 1, 2, expert investor, or institutional investor. All right, now these 3 types of sophisticated investors are defined in Regulation 2.1 of the Financial Advisors Regulation. All right, so certain people are classified or categorized as accredited investor, expert investor, or institutional investor. All right, in this regard, this particular notice, FAA number 11, does not apply. The second one, under B2B, advice is given to high net worth individual, as defined in the guidelines on exemption for specialized units, serving high net worth individuals under section 100 bracket 2 of the FAA guideline, number 7. Okay? Underline this particular point, by a separate and distinct department, division, section, or unit of the license or the exempt financial advisor, as the case may be. All right, so there's also some exception given to this particular group of people. So we have got accredited investor, expert investor, institutional investor, and also some high net individuals served by a specialized unit, right, within the licensed financial advisor or the exempt financial advisor, as the case may be. Okay? And paragraph C, to take note, advice is given to any person outside Singapore who is an individual. Right? And this individual must not be a citizen of Singapore, not a permanent resident of Singapore, and not wholly or partly dependent on a citizen or permanent resident of Singapore. Right? So this category of people is also exempted from the application of this notice on dual currency investments. Right? Dual currency investments are considered as sophisticated products, and as such, right, they have to be the advice given or recommendation on dual currency products to retail clients. One must exercise a caution on this. Right? However, if you're looking at the exceptions, then you will see that these people are sophisticated enough and they do not need the kind of advice that are required that under this particular notice. Okay? So let me just repeat: accredited investor, expert investor, institutional investor, high net worth individual under that category of a separate unit. And then C, foreigners, right, who are not citizens of Singapore, not PR, and not dependent. And also a person, in any other case, a person with no commercial or physical presence in Singapore. So this particular notice is for the purpose of protecting the retail investor, a retail investor who wishes to go into this particular type of product. Right? And under paragraph A 4.2, they give you some definitions. The meaning of an alternate currency, because it's dual currency. Right? And then below there you can see the definition of a base currency, meaning to say the currency in which the initial investment is made. And as usual, client means a prospective client. Any prospective client is considered a client, and so on. Right? So there are some technical definitions there that you may need to know a little bit about. That is in terms of what is the spot rate, what is the strike rate, and what is the value date. Now I say the dual currency investment products, these are sophisticated products, right? And the risks are pretty high in this regard. I'll talk more a little bit about this when we come down to the guidelines later on in the program. Now, very quickly, then we move on to A1. All right. So there is some restrictions in use of words that I've said before, in terms of financial advisor, life insurance broker, the use of the word independent, and so on. Now, A1 also give you some definition in regarding the use of the words deposit and structured deposit. So these two words, these two terms, words and structured deposits and structured deposits, also must be used carefully. Right? Look at 5 under A35. Deposit is defined in the Banking Act and has a generally understood meaning. Now, labeling a dual currency investment as a deposit may be misleading, right? As investors may misconstrue and misinterpret that a product is principal guaranteed in terms of the base currency, right? So a deposit in the bank, a fixed deposit in a bank, a savings deposit in a bank, these two types of deposits are very different from a dual currency product, right? So you cannot label a dual currency investment as a deposit because it is misleading, right? And paragraph 6 says clearly, no financial advisor or its representative shall, when describing or referring to a dual currency investment in any marketing material, any product disclosure document, use the term deposit or any of its derivatives in any language, right? Or the word structured deposit or any of its derivatives in any language, in the name or description or any representation of that dual currency investment, right? This particular notice, make sure, right, FAA N11, make sure that the words deposit and structured deposits are not used in relation to any dual currency investment. Now, A2 provides further product information disclosure under FAA number 11. Right? Look at paragraph 7 under A 4.4, A2 4.47. In addition to the notice on information to clients and product information under FAA number 3, right, this is FAA number 11. So in addition to what is required to be disclosed under FAA number 3, every financial advisor and representative providing any financial advisory services to a client concerning a dual currency investment shall provide the client with a fair and adequate description of all material information. Right? Like I said, this is a sophisticated product, so additional information is required. And it has been set up for you in a lot of detail, right? From paragraph 7A all the way to L. Okay. So, for example, A7A reads a description of the nature and mechanics of the dual currency investment, including a statement or statements to the following effect. Right? 1. A dual currency investment involves a currency option, which confers the deposit-taking institution the right to repay the principal sum at maturity in either the base or the alternate currency. Right? And 2. Part or all of the interest earned on these investments represents the premium on this option. Right? So that is required of you, a description of the nature and mechanics, including the type of statements, all right, financial advisor is to put in, right? Then B talks about illustrations, how the foreign exchange rate movement could result in a principal amount being repaid in the alternate currency, which could in turn result in the client receiving less than the principal amount initially invested when the amount in the alternate currency is converted back to the base currency. Right? So there's always a risk in terms of the conversion risk, the movement of the foreign exchange rates in the market. Right? So C talks about the assumptions that were made, hypothetical examples, the prevailing exchange rate at the rate fixing time, whether it's higher than, equal to, or lower than the strike rate. Right? Right? And D, potential benefits of investing in a dual currency investment, and for whom such investments will be appropriate. Right? So you got to tell in your information disclosure, the additional information disclosure, who are the people where such investments are appropriate. Right? E, any minimum investment amount. Okay, F, the currency from which the client can select at the time of investment, and so on. All right? And in terms of J, that's the foreign exchange control risk that this type of product faces. Okay? And K, a summary of the foreign exchange control restrictions, right? And so on. And well, L is the encompassing clause or other relevant risk factors. Okay? And B 4.5 talks about the warnings in bold, right, under paragraph 8 in that box. Okay, so FAA 11 requires the financial advisor to provide appropriate risk warnings to all clients in relation to dual currency investments. And at the minimum, the warning shall convey the following message. They give you, the FAA Notice 11 gives you the example. In all marketing materials and product disclosure statements, and shall be clearly legible. All right? So legible meaning must be clearly typed out, and the font size must be similar or the same, or even slightly larger than the rest of the text, because these are warnings, right? Attention must be drawn to all these warnings in regard to the risk of the dual currency investment. Okay? I read to you on A, by purchasing this dual currency investment, you are given the issue of this product the right to repay your future in alternate currency that's different from the currency in which your initial investment was made, regardless of whether you wish to be repaid in this currency at that time. B, dual currency investments are subject to foreign exchange fluctuations which may affect the return of the investment. I talk about exchange controls, right? And C, you may wish to seek advice, right? Licensed or an exempt financial advisor before making a commitment to purchase such a product. And in the event that you do not want to seek advice, then you must carefully consider whether this type of product is suitable for you. So these are clear warning signs, right? In order to make sure that there can be no allegations of forced selling or false representations or mis-selling of this type of sophisticated products. Now, the last part to this particular chapter 4 is in terms of guideline on structured deposits. Now, unless otherwise stated, every financial advisor and his representatives advising on dual currency investment should also observe all relevant provisions in the guideline on structured deposits. Right? Like I said before, structured deposits were included as a designated investment product under the Act. Right? And similar requirements as to product disclosure information must be given when advising clients or making recommendation on structured deposits. I believe there's some detailed guideline later on in the program, which I will look into a bit later. Yeah, before I conclude chapter 4, I would like to draw your attention to Annex A, alright, which is at the back of chapter 4, regarding future and past performance of collective investment schemes. Alright. Alright, Annex 4 of the notice, FA number 3, sets out the details, alright, as to the use of future performance of a CIS and the past performance of a CIS in terms of what you can do or what you cannot do. Right? Paragraph 1.1 there forbids actually or prohibits any use of words like prediction, projection, forecast, or target, or expected, or similar words, unless, right? Unless the assumptions upon which such forecasts or projection or targets are clearly explained. All right, and it also must carry a warning, right, in regard to this projection, prediction, or forecast used by the financial advisor in regard to the future performance of the CIS. Now, similarly, if you cast your eye down the page, there are also certain conditions whereby you can use past performance of a CIS as an illustration. All right. Across the page there, the details are also set out in regard to the use of past performance of a CIS as an illustration. Now, if you look at paragraph 3, there's also something there on the comparison of the past performance of a CIS with that of another CIS or an index. And paragraph 4, comparison of past performance of the CIS with that of other forms of investment. And lastly, at paragraph 5, past performance of the manager or the sub-manager. Now, I have in passing talked a little bit about this. So, it is important then for you to take a look at the Annex A, right? And be familiar with what are the things you can use or not use in describing the past or future performance of a CIS, right? Because then this can have an influence on the decision of the investor, particularly the retail investor. All right. In fact, it has maybe a decisive influence, right? When you make statements regarding the past performance or future performance, or comparing performances of one CIS with another index or with another form of investment, or the performance of the manager or the sub-manager, right? So, and if you look at the next page there under the schedule, then you'll see some illustration, right? And I think you can agree with me that some of the things there are pretty technical, right? And I mean, you just look carefully at the schedule, the illustration, right? You're talking about subscription fee, realization fee, a bid dollar, offer dollar, right? Right? And T1, TO, T3, T5, right? And looking down the page, average annual compounded return, right? And at the bottom of the page, average annual compounded return over the period from T5 to TO, etc. Now, these are pretty complicated, right, for a retail investor. Like I said before, a retail investor may not be financially literate or even literate in the English language, right? So these terms are a bit difficult for a retail investor to follow. So therefore, there's a need to explain, right, what the illustration means, right, for the retail investor. Okay. Now with that, I conclude chapter 4. Thank you. 4. Thank you. 4. Thank you. 4. Thank you. 4. Thank you.